guys, today we're going to do a tutorial that's live, but it's not live because we pre-recorded it. So we are going to be focusing on our Simply Stamped series and finishing this. Now you can refer to last week or a couple weeks ago when we did other finishing tutorials. It's going to be very similar techniques, except we've changed around a couple of the things just to kind of show you how you can give a bigger margin, working with Ada versus even weave, that kind of thing. So let me first show you the pieces that we're talking about. We came out with USA Forever Stamp. Jocelyn designed all of these, and we started this in 2023. They were really, really popular. It's a PDF that's only available at Fat Quarter Shop. And when we designed the Fall Forever Stamp, you guys really loved the fox in the Stitch Quarterly, so Jocelyn used that as inspiration for Fall Forever. And then Love came out this year, 2024, and I stitched it, and that's what we're going to be finishing today. And then Spring Forever Stamp just came out. And so with this series, what we're trying to do is do something that's the same stitch count. They all have stitch counts of 62 by 62. So all of those have that. We are going to continue. 4 have been released so far. We're going to continue releasing them. And these are all stitched with DMC. Another thing to note is we've done different fabric on all of them. We're just kind of coming up. They're not meant to be displayed together. They're just meant to be something fun and do something different and different finishing. So you can see the first one was done with a board by 141 Design. This one was finished using chenille trim by Lady Dot Creates. We did a video on that that is linked right here. This one is finished on a board from Hobby Lobby. And then this one, we decided to buy, we decided to design our own board and have that made, and it's made in America. It's actually made in Austin, Texas, and we're going to continuously keep these in stock. And the reason why is if you want to just keep finishing them, since we're going to keep doing this as a series, you can just interchange them out and then you won't have to spend as much money. But this is fun because we'll keep doing tutorials on finishing. So I'm going to talk about this easel and how we came up with it. So like I said, Jocelyn designed all of the Forever Stamps, and we met somebody in Austin, and he's been great to work with. And so we had him make this. This is called Small Soft White Wooden Easel Display. And you can either put that on the wall with a nail, or you can put this in. Now, it is expensive. It is going to be more expensive than anything you would buy at Hobby Lobby or Walmart, and that is because it is made in America, made in Austin, Texas, and designed by us. So basically, I think Brittany designed this, and Jocelyn designed the pieces, and then now, if we keep doing the Forever Stamps, we won't have to keep going to the store to buy them because you guys don't want to have to keep going to the store either. So we sometimes need to make our life easy also. So let's talk about the supplies, and as I'm going to talk about how this is different than the previous tutorial that we did a couple weeks ago. So for this, you need a sticky board. We are using the 11 by 14 size because you can cut all 3 of the pieces you need, because you're going to need 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. You can get all of that from this. The fabric we're using today, this is a Priscilla's Pretty Plaid and a Chelsea's Check. Those are Henry Glass fabrics. We sell both of those. The SKU number is on your pattern. We are going to be finishing the Love piece, so not this one, but we're going to be finishing Love Forever Stamp, and the reason why is I just finished it. We're going to be using finishing tape. Just make sure whatever finishing tape you use is acid-free. We're going to use a batting. We're using 80-20 batting just because that's what we prefer. Friction pin because we can get the heat off. We can get, sorry, I have hiccups. We can get the ink off with an iron. We're going to use a stiletto, basic sewing supplies. I've said it before, but all of these, they're all used just for cross stitch because they get hot glue on them. We are using a hot glue gun, and then we're doing a bow here. So we're going to kind of jump right in. I want to talk a little bit about the pieces and Denise is going to be doing the tutorial. So I'll talk and she's going to do this. So let's talk about the piece. Let's zoom in a little bit, Jordan. So what Denise wanted to do with this is show you a couple of different ways. So if we want the center piece to always be 5 inches. So she cut this 5 inches. If you're looking at something that is stitched on 25 count, you're going to have about a 1/4 inch on all sides. If you're stitching on 14 count, which is actually smaller, even though it sounds bigger, you're going to have about maybe 3/8 of an inch around. So basically we made this design. It's always going to be 62 by 62, and it will always work with either a 14 count Aida or a 25 count Lugana. And then we're going to always start with this size, which is 5 inches. But what Denise did is she's going to show you, you can do a 1/4 inch bigger on the second board and 1/2 inch on the next one, or you could do 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. So you can kind of see, and then this one obviously finishes a little bit, it's not apples to apples because this size is not the same as this size. And all of the patterns, we list exactly where you get these boards, so you can do either. But you could even do 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and just have it closer to the edge. So we are gonna just jump right in. She's gonna do the tutorial. I'm gonna talk through it, and I'm gonna get out of her way. So basically, we've already ironed this, and when you iron, what you want to do is put this. Let me show you this right here. So you want to put it on something like this, which is the yarn tree. What's it called? Pressing cloth. So when you do a cross stitch and you want to iron it, what we do is we use this pressing cloth. We put it right side down and press, and that's what we've already done. We try not to press on the front side, we just press on the back. So what Denise is gonna do here is she's going to mark outside on the lines, and to get it to be 5 inches, that is 4 squares to the left of the design. And Aida is easier to finish on because you can draw the lines easier than you could. So you can see she's counting 4 squares away, and we already came up with that because this is the 4th one she's finishing, or the 5th one now. So you could also use a ruler. You can do it however you're more comfortable. With the Aida, it's just easier to finish because the fabric is a little bit stiffer, and so it will hold better and stay in place a little bit better than even weave, if that makes any sense. So see, she was just counting, and we're using friction. Like I said, this is a pin that will disappear with heat later. I definitely wouldn't use a pencil. I'm not sure what else you could use besides a friction pin. I guess you could just eyeball it. But she's gonna mark that, and then what she's gonna do is cut outside those lines about 1 inch away. But this will be, when she's done, we'll show you with a ruler, but it's gonna be about 5 inches square with the lines. So this piece is cut 5, and if you put it right there, it's 5. But you can show them on a ruler. And we did this because, you know, some of these we did in 25 count, and some of you guys love 25 count, and some of you are just like insistent that we only do 14 count. So we made this doable for either count, so that it's great for beginners. Now, Denise is left-handed. She's gonna cut 1 inch outside of that drawn line. And we did get a question in a previous video that was a great question, is this a different rotary cutter? And it's not. You just change the blade and put it on the opposite side. And so she already has the press on board, and whatever brand of sticky board you use, I would just recommend that it be acid free. And we have found that using the stiletto will get the sticky off easier. It only took us a couple years to figure that out. And what she's gonna do is put that right side down on the batting. like I mentioned, we're using 80-20 batting. Now, if you want your piece right here to be puffier, this has 1 layer of batting. If you want it to be puffier, you could do 2 layers of batting, or you could do a poly batting. We have placed batting on this top piece and no batting on the fabric pieces. You can do whichever you want. You could do all 3 layers with batting, whatever you want to do. But if I was going to make it thicker, I would do 2 layers of 80-20 versus poly, just because I don't have poly. I don't use poly batting. It's super thick. So I would just use whatever you have on hand for that. And that gives you a little bit of versatility. And so now she's going to put the batting right side down on top of the piece. And she's going to, you can draw the lines on the back, or you can eyeball it. Now she's going to eyeball it because Ada is easier. And when I did my piece a couple of weeks ago and you saw it and it didn't come out exact, it was even weave, which is a lot harder to do. So she's going to try to do it without drawing the lines, because that's how she normally does the finishing. And we'll see if it works. We're going to basically wrap the piece to the front. We're going to wrap the front to the back, and we're going to, this sticky tape right here is double-sided. So she's going to take the stiletto, stick it in the tape, and then just yank it off. And with this, this is a fancy stiletto. You really don't need something this fancy. This is kind of just what we have. You could use your fingers. That's like an optional, you know, you don't have to use a stiletto. And so what she's doing is she's looking at it from the front, and you can see that board from the front, and she's evening it up from the front before she pulls it back. And then you're going to want to do 2 opposite sides first instead of bottom, left, top, right. You always want to do 2 opposite sides, just because it makes it kind of straight on both before you go to the other. If you try to do this, it doesn't work as good. And I would say, since we're not live today, what would be great is everyone give tips on how you finish, because that is one way that we all learn. One thing I did want to say that we did learn from Nancy in our last video is, if when you're cutting with your self-stick board, use a dull blade, and instead of cutting on the sticky side, if you start cutting your board on the white side, plain side, it will go in easier, and you just have to kind of anchor that, anchor the blade all the way down and then push. So we've done 2 sides, and we're going to do the opposite 2 sides. And then one thing that Denise does, if you're looking, she takes that tape and puts it all the way to the edge, because then that will catch everything. It also gives her more room to manipulate when she's placing that down. And when she, you'll want to pay close attention to when she tucks in the corners, because her corners are always really nice and beautiful, because the way she does it. If you do it, you could always do it another way, but I think you might like this. So this is our first board. And what we used to think is, oh, we could trim like this down and make it less bulky, but it's really not needed with the way that we came up with this, or Denise came up with this. So she's, you know, working from the middle to the outside, making sure it's straight before she does those corners. And like I said, Ada is, if you're a beginner finisher, Ada is so much easier to work with. It just, the stiffness of it works well for finishing. So there she goes in. Instead of 90 degrees, she goes in 45 or so. Makes it really taut, and then she's pulling it to the back. So you can really see how she's doing that. And you do the corners first, and then she's going to look at it in the front and then pull it to be straight. Now this one, compared to the video we did a couple of weeks ago, is a little bit easier to do, and I will show you why. When we did our tutorial last week, or a couple weeks ago, you can see this has a straight line and it's even weave. It was harder to get straight. This has a border that's wavy. So it's a lot easier if it's not perfectly straight. You're not going to see it as much as you would with something with a straight, solid border. And so again, that center size is 5 inches. And then she is using the stiletto to help with the color, with the corners. And I'm going to show you how to get the ink of that friction pen off. And I would say, you know, finishing, it's an art, it's not a science, so it's not going to always come out perfectly. We loved your comments on Denise from previous videos, so we're just going to let her show finishing since she's better at it. And right here, this is where your friction line is, so I'm going to show you how you remove that. You can either just put your iron on it like that and it just comes off, or this one, the steam will get it off. And then this one, oh, we got some batting on here. It's okay. Oh, when we cut the batting, it kind of stuck to the board. We'll get it off later. But so this one, what Denise wants to do on this one is she's going to leave for the piece behind it a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch on each side. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inches. So that's going to mean that since we cut this board 5 inches, adding 1/2 plus 1/2 will give you 6 inches. So she's going to make this board 6 inches. So she has already cut her sticky board, and she's going to be using Chelsea's checks. And what's great about using this fabric is when Denise uses it, she can line up this with the line on the fabric so that it is nice and straight. Now, one thing I did want to point out is when we're using quilting fabric for our cross stitch, we never starch or wash or anything because that will pull out it just is not needed. Let's just say that instead of, it just makes it easier to make sense, but it's just not needed. So she's gonna put this on with no batting, sticky side down on the fabric, and she lined up this or this, one of these sides. She does it a little bit different because she's left-handed, so I think you went from the other side, right? Oh, you did that, okay. And then she's gonna cut an inch around. And you could do 3/4 of an inch, you could do 2 inches, but we have tried a couple of different sizes and we find that an inch works better. So again, that first board was 5 inches, the second board is 6 inches. We are using the It's So Emma cross stitch finishing tape. It is double-sided. Just make sure whatever sticky board and sticky tape you use, that it is acid-free. And when you're in the craft store, it should say on there, acid-free. And then she's going to fold this down, and it's the same technique we used in our previous video. You put the sticky side down, and all the way, she's keeping it all the way to the edge. She's gonna do 2 sides first, then the remaining sides. And just take your time doing it, but I have found that using a plaid like she's using or a plaid like this, you can see it's so easy to line up and get straight than just a regular polka dot fabric. So I think it actually comes out, it looks a lot more professional because it looks harder than it actually was, if that makes any sense. And this one, I did want to point out, we're doing the same exact fabric as our sample. So our sample here has these two fabrics, but we're changing the board on the back and we're making my bow pink. So there's lots of ways that you can customize your piece, because not only can you pick your fabrics for your cross stitch, your floss for your cross stitch, you can customize by what you finish it on, what finishing fabrics you use, and what bow you use, and covered button. And if you wanted to, you could just put one board on the back. You wouldn't have to do two. And like I said, we've done other tutorials where we have done the fox into a pillow. So kind of just think about what works best in your home. You know, sometimes people will do a lot of pillows and put them in a dough bowl. Or, you know, like just like a wooden bowl you get at, you know, a decorator store or something. Or they put them on the wall, or that's why we did this board so that it would clip in, and you could do it either way. And we love that it's made in Austin. And so again, we have left 1/2 inch on all sides, and we're just, Denise is just doing all of this amazing, and she's gonna tuck these in. Now watch what she does with her stiletto. So she puts that stiletto in that corner, holds it, and pulls it back. And that, show them on the front, Denise, real quick. And that gives you that perfect square. And like, if you need it to be a little bit, you just kind of pinch it like she just did. So using the stiletto is not just for pulling the paper off. I think we used it and then we just kind of figured it out. But we'd love to see what you guys have as far as finishing tips. So it's looking so pretty, and the gray works really great with a lot of fabrics because it's very unisex. So we're just wrapping that fabric to the back using that stiletto in the corner. And one thing I did want to point out is Denise is using a lot of pressure. When you see her, she's really exerting a lot of pressure. She's pushing so that it gets really flat. Sometimes you have to be a little bit feisty and a little bit firm for it to work. And then she just looks at the edge, and those look perfect. So this is board 2. So again, board 1, 5 inches, board 2, 6 inches, board 7, board 3, 7. Okay, sorry, let's do that again. Okay, board 1, 5 inches, board 2, 6 inches, board 3, 7 inches, yay! Okay, so basically we have it where we're gonna do this. Now, we are gonna hot glue this down, and Denise is gonna give you tips on how to do that. And I would say that using hot glue on this step is really good, because if you use sticky tape, it might shift more, and if you use, or fall off, or if you use E5000, it might just be a little bulky. So we have found that the hot glue gun works best. I would recommend a fine tip hot glue gun and one that gets hot. So like we talked about, this time we're doing 1/2 inch. Our previous video, we did a 1/4 inch away. This one we're doing 1/2 inch. She's using that same technique, and she's putting the Creative Grids ruler, so it's 1/2 inch, and she's basically putting a dot. So this is 1/2 inch, this is 1/2 inch, and she's just putting a dot right there. And we can get that out with the iron in a little bit. So that makes it very like dummy proof, if that makes sense, instead of having to draw a line all the way around. And she just kind of eyeballs it. She's on her tippy toes so she can see all of the areas. She's gonna put glue on the piece that's cross stitched. Don't get the glue too close to the edge because it does ooze, but you do want to put some in the middle. When we first started doing finishing, we really didn't put a lot of glue in the center, and we found out that was not a good, so that's from trial and error. So she just lined up those 2 bottom points, the top 2. She's gonna do it real fast, and then she's gonna hammer it like with her hand down, like just hit it. That's what we do, we hit it. And then you can move to the next piece, or you could let that sit for 30 minutes to completely dry. Okay, Jordan thinks it's a little crooked. I think it looks good. It's good. He wanted me to move it a little bit. I saw the face. Okay, so now, again, this one is 1 inch bigger. So she's going to use that 1/2 inch mark and just put a dot. And it is best to do all the fabric pieces first and do your wood or your finishing last. I used to think you should start with the wood, but we think this works better. And so here, that same piece, she's going to start with that original piece. Eyeball it, put glue on it, and hammer it down. So we hope you enjoy Denise's tips. If you have any, we always are open to new ideas. You know, we've been doing this a long time, but it did take us a long time to come up with all of this. And we all obviously are very inspired by Priscilla and Chelsea and their finishing. So we want to give them a shout out because we couldn't do this without their inspiration. And this one was actually finished by Priscilla. So we're actually showing you Priscilla's idea. So you'll want to subscribe to Stitching with the Housewives. Now from here, you can see the little tiny dots. I'm going to get those out with the iron. This iron has a, oh, sorry, that iron is like really loud. So that iron has steam that comes out. So that's why I used it, and it doesn't spit water. So be careful. If you're not using an iron like that, you can just like tap your iron. Or, you know, sometimes there's some little applique irons that are little tiny tip, and you could just use those. Now from here, she's going to put this on the board, which again, the board is called the Soft White Paddle Board. And it's painted, it's hand painted by the person who makes this. And we picked the paint color and everything. And you can either put magnets or you can use hot glue. We're using hot glue because this one is my piece. And we're gonna display it at Fat Quarter Shop. And so if it has magnets, I don't want it to like get lost or, you know, anything like that. And since we have more releasing throughout the year, we thought it would be really cool. Oh, this is called the Soft White Scalloped Wooden Easel. Sorry, I said the wrong thing. And if you look, Priscilla used a gray bow. Denise thought mine needed to be pink, and we want you to watch our video called How to Make Bows with Priscilla and Chelsea from Stitching with the Housewives. So that is Priscilla and Chelsea's technique. We just followed that video, and what Denise is doing is making sure that each side is even, and so that's about 5/8 of an inch. Does that look about 5/8? Mm-hmm. And so she's just eyeballing it because she wants all 4 sides to be even. Now your piece might not be exactly where you would use 5/8, so just make sure you're using what you think is best. Now she's going to do the same thing on the wood. She's going to put little dots, and it's not going to hurt the wood. And to be honest, if you never took the dots off, I don't think anybody would know. The ribbon we're using on this one is 4 inches, and we will put, it's from Hobby Lobby, we'll put a note in the video of what it is. But basically she's putting everything. When she put this down, not only did she put this down, she also put this down so that she saw the placement before she did everything. And so now she's going to hot glue each piece down because now she likes the placement. And, you know, she's got her dots there. And she's having to put in a second glue stick. What is it? Is that a glue stick? Mm-hmm. Glue stick. Okay, so, and one thing is she's learned to be really fast with that glue gun because it dries. And so it's kind of a lot of pressure to do this on video. because you have to do it fast, and yeah, you have to like, she's on her tippy toes making sure it all matches. And this one, I really like how the whiteboard really is really white. It matches the fabric, but the Aida is pink because it really, that Aida really pops out. And she's really, with her fingers, she's pushing that down so that the glue that she put is like sticking down. You want to make sure you don't move it around or do anything crazy for 30 minutes. And then she's going to glue down the bow. So I think she's just winging the center. She's just kind of looking at it to make sure it's in the center. I mean, I don't think we need to use a ruler or anything. That is the 4th scallop in. So you've got 3 scallops on each side. She's going to put the glue on the actual bow. And she puts a lot of glue because we don't want the bow to come off. And we just put it there and let it sit. Now we're not going to move it. We're not going to fluff the bow. We're not going to do any of that because we really want it to just stay and be pretty. So give a huge shout out to Denise for doing this finishing tutorial with us. You can use it for all of the Simply Stamps series and anything else you want to see. And we're so excited that you watched today, and we will see you next week. So we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of videos from our Nashville needlework market, which were amazing. And we hope to see you next week. Bye.